Srimad Bhagavatam 10, chapter 20, 27. Reading from chapter Rainy Season, Autumn and Down.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Word by word translation.
Yes. Maharaj.
The Lord saw the joyful aborigine girls of the forest, the trees dripping sweet sap, and the mountain for waterfalls, whose resounding indicated that there were caves nearby. So there is no purport to this text, and from one side the text is pretty simple, does not require any commentaries, but at the same time it's so complicated that it's hard task to comment the usual perspective, regular perspective. It seems like it's very simple, but regarding the nature, describing the nature of Vrindavan, this is amazingly impossible to express or describe. You cannot really describe it with your feelings. The rainy season, rivers, everything is coming into action with each other, and it is really still it was not explained any of the acharyas, and there's another side to it, spiritual. Dhavan, the energy of Krishna self, his inner potence, and it is being in control of Srimati Radharani. And it is said here, some of the moments. So it's forest, and the Lord is in forest. Vana is the spiritual scenery. This is the abode of Lord Krishna. Usually the forest is the abode of some creatures, some living creatures, like grass and trees and animals. And ordinary man cannot understand it because usually one is living for himself only. He thinks that he is the most important, through my understanding, I understand everything else. So my ego is in the center always. This is egocentric view, and this view is also belong to all other living creatures. Like, this is the lore, like dog eat dog, and everybody is trying to survive by himself. This is the material world, and variety of living creatures. So we might see this world, and it's very beautiful. We might describe it as there's so many waterfalls and beautiful mountains, wonderful sceneries, but at the same time, living entities, they disturb each other living together. This is the description of material nature. It can be described from this point of view. The higher planets are just like this, the lower planets, the planets in the middle, has the same problem, the fight to be the master. The more you fight to be the master, the more you suffer from someone else as well. Here we have the description of Vrindavan, and there is only one creature, there is only one living being who is the master, and the rest are just his servants. Nor animals, nor people are covered by this desire to be the master. So it's a completely different field. There are no any disturbances. So if we are turning into spiritual wave, we're gonna be far away from anger and envy, irritation. We might even feel Vaikuntha inside of us. And all of us really want to have this atmosphere to live in. Try to serve each other. We're applying these spiritual principles in our little families, but we cannot apply it in our big family. There is a fight between living entities. There's always a war, and in the previous ages, it's more like signs of degradation of humanity, that there's a tendency to have violence, to apply violence. People, they don't know what sinful reaction they get from nature, what outcomes for this action may be. Slaughterhouses is the sinful reaction. Whatever a man brings to this world, it's not the God's law. Of course, we need some violence in order to protect our life during the time of war, protect ourselves from some mean people, from robbers, from the one who try to steal your property. This kind of action should be stopped by violence. But beyond that, violence cannot be applied. You can only apply violence to the one who is violator. But you cannot violate cow or an old person, women, children. So we have this description of Vrindavan, and this little text, it has as well. Everything that is in Vrindavan is that is Yamuna and Govardhan, and it's all beyond this universe. There's a simple thing being described by, but this way we can get a little understanding. There's aborigine girls of the forest and the trees dripping sweet sap. It means the trees are happy if they're given this sweet sap. Not so many trees nowadays can give this sweet sap. If they're being taken care of nowadays, then trees might give you some. But it is said that in this forest, you can get the trees given the sweet sap, even honey dripping down from the branches without any cultivation. It was so happy. There was so much happiness. And then the mountain waterfalls, which sounded very pleasantly. For those who have some psychological problem, the sound of waterfall is good. It's pacifying. And by this sound, you could actually hear the caves were near. So this is an elaborate text, great decoration chapter. If we get into the details of the description of the trees with the sweet sap dripping down and these girls living in the forest, so there is no commentary, and we're going to text. Read from. When it rained, the Lord would sometimes enter a cave or the hollow of the tree to play and to eat roots and fruits. Purport. Srila Sanatana Goswami explains that during the rainy season, bulbs and roots are very tender and palatable, and Lord Krishna would eat them along with wild fruits found in the forest. Lord Krishna and his young boyfriends would sit in the hollow of the tree or within a cave and enjoy pastimes while waiting for the rain to stop. They would go away to the forest with friends. The forest was full of natural food and full of caves to find shelter if it rains, and they would eat some roots and fruits. And during this rainy season, those bulbs and roots were very delicious. We wouldn't even dream of that taste. The most tasty can come from nature only. And man, he takes tastes from nature and cultivate it a bit. Cook it. But there's another tradition. You just take those bulbs and roots, and it's very juicy, and you just its taste complete. There are other products that require some cooking, and if you do that, then you would have a perfect dish. Besides these bulbs and roots, also you can use some seeds And in order to get some spice, not so many people really know how to use spices. There are so many spices, some seeds like cumin and curcuma, the root, the root of the grass, and whenever it's dried, it's very firm, like rock. You need to grind it. So these seeds or roots you don't really eat separately. Most like a drug, you use it. Spice. There are so many different spices, hot spices like pepper, red pepper, and chili, and everything is used. And butter, melted butter, ghee, considered to be the best. You fry those spices, those seeds, in together with this ghee, and this different variety of spices together, seeds and asafoetida and ghee. You mix it together, and I might even show you later. These are the gifts of nature. Besides, we have bananas, grapes. In the Soviet times, we didn't have any bananas. Or you can even find some mango nowadays. And from China, pineapple, jackfruits we don't have. In it here. There are many other fruits that we don't cultivate in our area. Then watermelon, berries like strawberries. So we have everything in order to have peaceful life. But because man wants to be the master over this nature that was not created by him, that is not his property, then we're missing something. And all these different variety of tastes, fruits and everything is not enough for us. So a person would think he would like to kill instead of eating these natural things, and instead of a variety of spices he would use garlic and onions. So this fine taste been lost. Don't know how these tastes connected with your fine body. Talking about the bodies, an elephant has big body, or a bull, and it's more adjusted for survival. Animals, they can get their food from the ground, from the surrounding area, but at the same time they cannot cook anything. And civilized man, he can see the life in this subtle bodies. Whenever you see ahimsa side of world, then your view might be changed. And there is a story from Srimad Bhagavatam when one king, he went to the forest and he met one rakshas, one uncivilized man who would eat people, and he killed him because those those guys, they would eat, catch and eat civilized man. So those kings, they would from time to time kill these. And that guy, he had a brother, the meat eater. He had the brother. And that brother, he could not forgive the king for killing of his relative. So he started to think of how to apply his revenge to this king. He was pretty smart. So somehow he got to the kitchen of the king, served, and got this position when cook, and he started to deal with this variety of spices because king requires the best. So that kitchen was full of different ingredients, and you need to feed king the best so he could rule the country very nice. And one day, one brahmana, powerful brahmana, came to see the king. That sage was very powerful. They're much this kind of sages. They're much more powerful than kshatriya. And the king accepted him as the sage, as a great sage, gave him the special place to sit and applied all the hospitality. And that meat eater, he put some food on the plate of that sage that was contaminated. And the moment the sage could see that plate, and king, he could not see it from the beginning. So the sage was so much, he felt so much offended. If you offer some vodka or entertainment with women to those sages, you're gonna have problems. That sage said immediately that you're gonna be a man-eater, said to the king, because you offended me with this. The king was in shock. He said, I never eat even animals. Why do you say there is a man flesh on the table? And he cursed that sage as well. And Agastya Muni, that was Agastya Muni, he thought, yeah, I got too far, so it will happen to you for a short time, but then you're gonna come back to the king, because I cannot cancel my curse. And he left. The king immediately looked at the surrounding, at this food, and you need to understand that the food and consciousness are together always. Food defines consciousness. Probably you don't know this news. Give you Russia will accept new law. The one who preaches vegetarianism will be imprisoned for 3 years. This is news. See these laws? It reminded me of 80s in the Soviet Union, when you would be put to prison for the vegetarianism. I don't think it's practical nowadays. Might not work because you need to stop all the influence of internet and everything. But we're not gonna talk about vegetarianism. We're gonna talk about ahimsa, about killing of the animals. We're not against meat eaters. If you need to eat dead animals without killing them, whenever the cat or dog is dead, then you can eat it, but you can't kill, just like Prabhupada was saying. So that's the way we're gonna preach now. Don't kill your animals. They're gonna have more problems actually. It's not gonna work. To some extent, probably. Because there's so many vegetarian people nowadays and vegetarian places, restaurants. It's all there. So this is the verse today. And besides that, it mentioned here that we can come and sit in the hollow of the tree. In India, there is a tree called banyan, and whenever you approach it, you're gonna spend a lot of time staring at it. There is such a tree in a museum in Chennai, Park Museum, and Nicholas Rerich used to live there. He could have been the founder. So there's a famous banyan tree, and it's like several miles long. One tree, several. Sometimes they come see this tree. One tree is like covers the whole park. You can even get lost. Initial root of the tree is dry already, but because it always gets new springs, then it's really hard to describe this tree because it seems like it has lots of stems that are crossing each other like the pillars, great pillars. And there are so many birds living in there. And there are even flying dogs. We know the bats, right? We have them in Kazakhstan, but those flying dogs we don't have. Those are huge bats. And they say those are not bats, those are flying dogs. So in the leaves and branches of banyan tree, there are so many living creatures, and you can even take the shelter there and spend some time, like even stay there overnight. And some of the kids, when they're playing, they find these hollows in the tree. This is Vrindavan. This concept came from Vrindavan and was mirrored throughout this planet. The next text, Lord Krishna would take his meal of boiled rice and yogurt sent from home in the company of Lord Sankarshan and the cowherd boys who regularly ate with him. They would all sit down to eat on a large stone near the water. Who doesn't like we live in Vrindavan. Sometimes you can get to the forest, get some lunch there in the nature. But the man cultivated his life in a different way, and nature something that is scary for him nowadays. Winter time. Actually, there are some places where it is hard to live, be outside, so they had to go hunting the northern areas. It's like there are some places heavenly, like Mauritius. The Mauritius would have no mosquitoes, even, it's heavenly, and it has so many fruits living there, growing there, so many fruits that you would never find. So this is reflection of the heaven, Mauritius. It's not easy to find places anymore. Even the boiled rice, sweet rice. One day we were traveling through Russia, was far east, and it would take us 3 hours to get to the destination. We have some prasadam with us. And, it was a plan to stop for lunch. And for an hour and a half, we drove looking for an appropriate place. So we felt good, Saddam, and somehow we found this place in the nature. So it's a problem. Nowadays, people they build in these cities, and it is very hard to find a place to even have breakfast or lunch outside. Lord Krishna watched the contented bulls, cows sitting on the green grass and grazing with closed eyes, and he saw that the cows were tired of the burden of their heavy milk bags. Thus, observing the beauty and opulence of Vrindavana's rainy season, a perennial source of great happiness, the Lord offered all respect to that season, which was expanded from his own internal potency. So the glory of Vrindavan is being revealed in this text. The description is so much like what we think, but it's way different. And from the purport, we'll be able to understand it correctly. We need to know that this is not the first canto, but the 10th canto, the most sacred knowledge. So this is the rainy season, autumn, and it considers to be unstoppable, non-stop happiness, because sun is not that hot anymore in Vrindavan. It's cool and warm enough at the same time. You can live under the tree all year round, but there are some other seasons that keep you off, and there are some seasons that are more pleasant. And whatever you desire, find any food this season, autumn. So Krishna glorifying this season, very merciful season, that was nothing else but the manifestation of his inner potency. Inopportunity can bring not only good weather but bad weather as well. And if you provide man with so much comfort, he will not develop his intelligence. In this material world, everyone has to work, even the animals, in order to get food. That's material nature. It gives us necessities. And autumn, so merciful. Day and night, so merciful. The lush beauty, we're reading from the commentary, the lush beauty of the rainy season in Vrindavan is meant to enhance the pleasure pastimes of Sri Krishna, thus to set the scene for the Lord's loving affairs. His internal potency makes all the arrangement described in this chapter. This is the inner potency of the Lord. Usually, man, his external potency, making the man to work hard, but his internal potency, acting differently in Vrindavan, it gives you enjoyment. When there is one God, no problems. When there's everyone who is the God, then always have. And when you have no gods, no God, then it's the most problematic. So this nature, his inner potency of the Lord, it's making this season, the autumn season, for the Lord, and hasten the enjoyment, enhance the pleasures. Pleasure. Not like we go into the forest, nature, crash it. Days, if we be honest, cities, and it is said in this place with a population over 30,000 contaminated. And we need, in order to maintain such cities, need to a lot of cheap labor. So you cannot do that without exploitation. In order to build huge constructions, you need to have a lot of slaves, like in Egyptian civilization. So you need to exploit someone. Enjoyment. These vast cities are not good for the development of society. It will bring up a lot of mafia. You cannot escape living in the village, but you can hide easily in big cities. If you sneeze in one side of the village, the other side, people, they will know immediately. So you cannot be a mafioso in a village. It will not be a secret, because you cannot run it officially, right? Later I will describe you how to make your own mafia. Today we're talking about Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, Ural area, they know exactly what mafia is, right? in the 90s, we dealt with them.
поддерживали.
Some of them would support even our devotional service.
Правда.
Those mafia.
Вот. Но это не внутренняя энергия Кришны. Это
But this is not Krishna's inner potency
ну, видите, да,
manifestation,
внешняя энергия Кришны. Тоже она.
external potency. And still it wants to serve.
Читая последний текст, вот,
Funny. I will read
Дарья, даже два текста.
from the
Дарьев могу прочитать вперед.
last two texts.
Текст 32.
Has
Там
no
Господь
commentaries.
Рама и Господь
While
Кришна
Lord Rama
собрались
and Lord Keshava were thus dwelling in
Тем временем
Vrindavan, the
наступила
fall
осень.
season arrived
Небо прояснилось,
when the sky is
стало прозрачным,
cloudless, water
а ветер
clear,
легким.
and the wind gentle. Beautiful.
Годом. Естественное время. Вот есть такие сезоны, меняется, да, меняется
There are such
культура, и,
condition of water,
год мы видим. Те Кали, они не очень отрегулированные сезоны иногда. Сейчас февраль месяц,
vary.
да? Знаете, что
We're
на
in the
солнце
middle of
8 градусов,
February, right? Here in Kazakhstan,
в тени
when
есть
sun is
12.
shines bright, it's up to 20
Таяло,
degrees
тепло,
Celsius
выходить загорать.
on the sun.
Даже для Казахстана это явление не
It's unusual, Kazakhstan.
сезоны смещаются. Как бы.
So the
Так, это
seasons,
не очень
they're
точно работают.
they're not stable in
А вот в
age of
Индии мы
Kali.
даже были
And
шокированы.
in India,
Я
we
бы не
were,
поверил,
we were
что
shocked.
сказали.
I
Но
wouldn't
сам
even
в Индии
believe it
видел мы на стыке зимы и весны.
that in between
Там
of
астрологи вычисляют этот день, каждый год
spring
по лунному
and
календарю
summer,
вычисляется, не по солнечному. Разный день.
there's
И
a
там
certain
находится
period that
праздник,
is
значит, весны.
cultivated
То есть находится
the
такой
moon
день,
calendar.
когда заканчивается
Such a
зима.
day when winter is
День весна
over
наступает.
and the next day the
И вот на
spring
следующий
comes.
день
So the next day
их
it's
холод не
warm,
ощущается. Сразу на следующий день
so much warm,
я
no
бы не поверил никогда, но сам вот
coldness.
это
I wouldn't
весна,
believe it,
это
but
закончилось
I
зимой,
felt it
день,
really
день уже
that
была весна.
one day you have winter and the next day is
Были
spring.
ведические времена когда-то. Я слышал еще более шокирующую вещь.
And it was like this in Vedic times.
Поверит,
There's another thing that I've heard.
что
It's probably just for Ural guys because
дожди
all
проливают
others will
только
not believe
ночью.
it.
Однажды засветило солнце.
The rain would fall only at night
Да, вот ночью.
and it would always be sunshine during the
Солнца
day.
много, дождей мало. Нужно организовывать полив. Это такой труд. Знаете,
So
вот есть природа, которая сама может...
the nature is
Ночью идет дождь, днем солнце.
all regulated.
Вот так может природа быть отрегулирована. Мгм. 33 текст. Осень оживила прекрасный
The
лотос,
autumn season, which
и вернула водоемам
regenerated the lotus
всякую
flowers,
чистоту.
also restored the various bodies of water
Практика преданного служения
to their
очищает ум
original
падших
purity,
йогов,
just as the process of devotional service purifies the minds of the fallen yogis when they return to it.
Такое сравнение дается интересное.
Such a beautiful description.
Осень оживила прекрасные
That
лотосы и
The
вернула
autumn season regenerated the lotus flowers,
скажем,
also restored the various bodies of water to their
видите,
original purity, just like
осень
the devotional service that purifies
будто какое-то духовное
the
отличие
minds of the fallen yogis.
очаровывает
So
сердце человека. Как бы
it's a
очищает.
special moment that
Удивительно,
purifies
мистическое влияние осени
the
даже
heart. This autumn, you know, even
Вот
Pushkin,
хорошо,
he
если
was
Самарин
making
Пушкин там
his
про весну
poems.
что-то говорил и про зиму говорил,
He
но
was speaking about
осень,
fall and winter, but
энергии, настоящие
talking about autumn, he
гитары.
would go
Мы сравниваем
more
с
details.
вами практикой, с духовной практикой. Поэтому
Here,
вот видите,
autumn
как
is being
природа нам
compared to this
помогает понимать много
spiritual
вещей.
practice.
Он дождей и осени. Это помогает нам обрести
that
сознание.
purifies the mind.
Просто наблюдая за природой. Не только
So
осень.
all we need to do is
Другие
just
сезоны
to
тоже нам помогают.
watch the nature in order
В России
to
очень
be
помогает. В Сибири зима.
become God conscious.
Зима это естественная
In
аскеза.
Siberia, there is
Аскеза
winter,
очищает.
and it
Человека.
purifies you because
Летом они
it's an
раздеваются,
austerity. It
возбуждаются,
purifies the
зимой все
mind.
одеты, прикрыты и холодно. В этом смысле
In the
это аскеза.
summertime, people are trying to get
Воздержание
undressed and they become
в уме,
lusty.
возбуждающих мыслей.
But when it's winter time, they cannot
И зима
manifest them as
является
bodies
белизной,
and
холодом.
they become purified naturally.
Можно найти, наблюдая за природой, много таких
So,
факторов,
witnessing the
которые
nature, we can find a lot of
устанавливают в различных регионах.
such things
Кто-то сказал из наблюдателей,
when,
что
where,
за полгода
when nature is
ничего
balancing
производить
your
не
life.
строим. За полгода природа
If you
восстановит
stop
экологию
your
сама.
production,
Снова через
someone
реки
said,
потекут, где можно пить воду,
the, man,
воздух.
the manufacturer for half a year,
Ну вот так
everything
наблюдать
will
природу.
be regenerated
Хорошо, вот
and
такие вот
restored.
тексты были.
So these are the
Сейчас
texts
читать не буду, потому что тут очень
that
большой комментарий. Читайте
we have.
позже.
Uh,
Сейчас
the next
можно
one has a vast commentary, so we're
комментарии,
gonna stop on these
дополнения,
ones. And you can say whatever
вопросы,
you have right now. If you have
сомнения,
any questions or
возмущения в
doubts
любой
or
форме, пожалуйста,
you
выступайте.
disagree with something,
Рамтакур Прабhu, Харе Кришна, сейчас секундочку. Дорогие преданные, пожалуйста, поднимайте руку
Hare Krishna, dear
в
devotees,
Zoom, чтобы я вас включал, потому что у нас еще есть
please
вопросы
make
из онлайна.
signs that participate in this
Маленькая иллюстрация такая к
discussion.
вашему рассказу про
It's interesting that you mentioned this about Mauritius
когда набираешь в поисковике
place.
Вики,
And when you search
такая есть эта самая ссылка,
Mauritius,
называется «Загаженный рай».
you
В общем, короче,
you go online, then you find this topic,
танкер на мель,
wasted
из
Mauritius,
него вылилась часть
and
нефти.
it says that there was a
Был рай.
great cargo ship that
Они
sank
боятся его
in that area, and a lot of oil
полагают,
was
что он
spreaded on the surface
всё остальное.
of the ocean, and it's still there. Some of it's still in the ship
Получается,
and sinking and dripping.
Хорошее дополнение.
So this is a wasted Mauritius.
Видите, это потому, что люди не заняты преданным служением, поэтому
Yeah,
теряют
it is
интерес
important
и прочие
for a
вещи.
person to be engaged in devotional service. Otherwise, he would spoil everything, even those holy, even those heavenly
Потому что
places in
да,
this
цивилизация идет таким путем.
in earth
Если бы
can be
занимались
wasted.
преданным служением, Маврикий всегда был бы чист.
We are all engaged in
Только
devotional
Маврикий
service,
был бы чист.
not only
И ум
Mauritius
архитектуры.
place, but everything
Я потрясающая
would be
картина,
clean.
храм,
You have a beautiful
божества,
painting hanging on the wall.
божества.
What are those
Откуда
deities?
это божество?
What is that deity?
Помните, когда посетили
Can you remember visiting Jaipur,
Это Говиндаджи?
вот расскажите
the place of Govindaji?
О,
This is Govindaji. Oh, okay. Could you please
ну
tell
как-нибудь
this
расскажу,
this
да.
story to the devotees?
А как-нибудь расскажу, может быть,
When
не
we were
сегодня,
praying to
может быть,
Govindaji. Yes,
может
yes,
быть,
one day I will tell it because it will take a lot of
обязательно
time.
расскажу в следующий раз.
Because you asked, I will do it next time.
алгоритм. Кришна, это Лала Бихари хотела этот вопрос задать.
Харе Кришна, Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu. Мои поклоны, пожалуйста, примите. Дорогие преданные, тоже примите мои поклоны. Можно бы попросить вас раскрыть научно тему, что такое чувствительность? Потому что среди преданных это вообще не раскрыто никак. Сейчас объясню, что я
Please describe
знаю молодых
what
преданных,
tenderness is,
у которых благодаря вот этой их чувствительности
because there are
у них
some
вот те
some
внимания, которые
devotees, they're
должны
so
быть
tender,
прямые, да,
their
они
feelings so tender
прямые,
that
да, и из-за этого они как-то вот сами по себе, они чувствуют, да, вот добро,
And
зло как-то вот, ну, верным образом они это
they feel
определяют, да,
this
вот,
good and
не
bad,
знаю, там, что еще, свет, тьма, да, вот, ну, как-то вот они чувствуют это. Но из-за того, что
they
эта
feel it.
тема не
But
раскрыта,
because
они думают, то, что это недостаток, они могут думать, то,
this
что это
topic
какой-то сентимент,
is not
это какая-то моя слабость или вот еще что-то такое, да. И
been
поэтому
discussed a lot,
я
they
вот,
think they're more in
ну,
a
если считаю, то,
sentimental
что это
state of
нужно
mind.
преданным,
And I think the
мне
devotees
вопрос
needed
сказать, что такое вообще в общем
to
чувствительность, да,
understand
именно в
what
практике
is to
преданного
be,
служения.
what it is to be sensitive.
Что это такое на духу?
How can you apply, utilize it in devotional service?
Лала Бихари всегда задает сложные вопросы.
Lord Bihari is given complicated questions always, psychological questions.
Пытаемся что-то.
We'll try to talk about it.
Давайте будем опираться на гуны материальной
We're gonna deal with modes of material nature,
Например,
trying to
люди в разных гунах
describe it.
материальной природы.
People are placed in
Да,
different
люди
modes of
в
material nature.
страсти, в
There are
радости,
people
и люди в саттве.
who are in sattva,
Они все очень
tamas, and
чувствительны, но
rajas. They
по-разному.
are all sensitive, but in a
Нельзя
different
сказать, что
way.
тамаси, он нечувствителен.
You cannot say that
Он очень
the one who
чувствителен,
is
когда его
tamasic
обижают, очень
is not
обидчив человек.
sensitive. No, he is sensitive when he is being
Даже
hurt
вот намек какой-то,
or
он
offended.
обидится надолго, и никто не сможет
Having a
понять,
slight
почему
hint
его
of the
такого поведения. Он еще и при себе это держит.
offend, he will
То есть очень
be
сложная психология, да, недоступная психология
concentrated
для
on it.
общения.
So the psychology
Бессердечный,
is
замкнутый, обидчивый,
giving him
вот, завистливый. Он в этом
so
смысле
much
очень
envy
чувствительный в плане зависти, скажем, в плане
and
обиды.
he can be
А в
offended
страсти
very
он
easily.
живет по-другому. Он
He
может
will
это
he
терпеть
will
больше,
remember it
другие
for a
вещи
long
может
time,
просто
and
обижаться,
in
тоже может
passion, in the mode
завидовать.
of passion,
Но в страсти он может терпеть
he would
ради
stand
того, чтобы
much
что-то
more.
делать. Он чувствителен к
He would
деятельности,
cope
к
with
плодам
a
деятельности.
lot of more because
У
he's
него есть
concentrated on the
вдохновение
fruits of
какое-то.
activity.
Он когда думает о деньгах, о
When
богатстве,
whenever
о
he's
устройстве
thinking
мира,
about this
о
world
таком
structure,
обществе, которое можно тоже хорошо организовать,
and
питание,
whenever he
экономика,
thinks
культура, не
about
знаю, там, наука,
economy and
цивилизация, вот
culture and
фантастические вещи какие-то придумывают, чтобы вдохновить
some
плодами
high-tech,
деятельности. Он
whatever,
чувствителен и вдохновлен вот этими вещами, как бы больше от
he would
ума,
be inspired by these
каких-то
things
планов,
coming from his mind,
к плодам труда. Поэтому он может
inspired by his
благодаря этому
plans.
терпеть
Thanks to it, he can stand and cope
неудобства
with
в
lots
общении,
of
недостатки, и преодолевать их, продолжать
offense,
выполнять обязанности, общаться с людьми,
and he
делать
can
свое служение,
overcome
может быть.
those things,
Но он, видите, они чувствительны по-разному.
the influence.
А в
So they are
благости,
sensitive in a different way.
к
And
хорошим вещам,
in a mode of goodness, a man is sensitive to good
то
things.
есть, плохие вещи, он
Bad
как-то
things,
это
he's trying,
чувствует.
he's feeling it
Но
as well.
позитив у него
but
больше,
positive
потому что он видит много
Attitude
хороших
and
вещей.
positive view
Поэтому
prevail.
вот эти недостатки, они его не меняют.
Even though he sees the faults,
Как человека, скажем,
it does
невежественного,
not change him. Yeah.
меняется человек.
Because for the
Старый
person
Сакуни, он не меняет
in a mode of ignorance, he would be
нет
changed
расплодивых
seeing
своих
bad
деяний,
things.
то есть они не имеют силы
But
изменить
those
его к
who
лучшему.
in the mode of goodness,
Тоже обидно может.
they're more stable.
Сказать, оскорбить его, но он не меняется с точки зрения
He would
других
not change according to the
более устойчивый.
circumstance,
Это вот
not
чувствительность,
favorable circumstance. This is the view,
чувствительность — это естественное
this
качество
is the
человека, это
mode's
лучше
perspective.
быть чувствующим, чем не
It's
чувствующим.
better to be sensitive than non-sensitive.
Лучше любить, чем не любить.
Better to love than not to love.
Любовь не недуг, говорил
Love
Сократ.
is
Недуг
not
не любовь.
Fault. The fault
Вот, и вот
is
эта
when you
чувствительность,
do
она
not love.
направлена на Кришну.
And this love should be,
К Кришне. Это очень
and your feelings,
нежные чувства,
your senses
которые мы никому не сможем
should
дарить,
always
кроме
meet
Кришны.
Krishna.
Потому что, да, из гуны природы, и кто-то может оскорбить, не
And
понять, допустим.
some might be sensitive, some might not,
И вот самое
because there are
тонкое
some
чувство
modes of
должны быть
nature.
преданные, которые уже любят
And
Бога.
the most fine senses
Вайшнавов любят, вот
should
это
be in the
самое тонкое
possession of
чувство.
devotees.
И есть еще
Vaishnava
другая вещь,
is
когда человек
most
чувствует
tender
просто остро
and
всё,
sensitive person.
плохое и хорошее.
There are some people who would feel, who would be sensitive to all good and bad,
Страх.
and he would have the fear
Вот это вот может
of bad
препятствовать
things
его
that would
счастью.
prevent him
Чувствительность
from
сама по себе,
living.
а страх.
So
Страх
it's
это
not
означает,
about
что он
his
не доверяет
sensitivity,
хорошему,
but
потому что
about
плохое
the
всё испортит,
fear
как ему
He's not putting his trust into something because he knows some bad things might come and spoil everything. So this fear stops him. In this way, you need to, in this situation, you need to put your trust in Krishna. Then you'll be free from this fear. No one is gonna be hurt if he's doing good. Always. So this is my answer. Like to add something? Ask another question. You know more in this field, right? Your nature is sensitive because you're a woman. You might know much more. Lalagopala. This could be your topic. I remember once you were saying Guru Maharaj in his young age, he was living in Radhanath Maharaj. He would live in a farm, and some people, they were passing by, and he was cultivating some plants, and some would stop on those stems and kill him, and Radhanath Maharaj was even crying. I meet this sort of people very rare, actually. He's so sensitive and he feels my slight emotions changes. I will give you one episode about talking with him. So one time, it was a long time ago, I was asked to send some dry fruits to Radhanath Swami. And I was so much thinking about how can I give it to him. And I was shocked by his reaction because he saw me through. So I found Radhanath Maharaj didn't really like me to meet him on the street trying to give them this plastic bag with those fruits. It was not very appropriate at that time. So I was living with that problem, living in my head, that I stopped him so roughly in the middle of the street. And when I joined the GBC commission, one day I lived with that thing. One day he came up to me and he stared into my eyes for some time, for a long time, with a smile, and I understood that he remembers that episode, and he kept me in his arms for so long that that memory started to go away. Because I still remember that episode, and I felt a bit differently back then. It was still there in the back of my mind. So one day we're sitting and splitting the table with some devotees, and Radhanath Swami is coming by. As he sees me, he sits across the table, and he says, "I like to talk to you." And he stares at me, smile. He said, "I would like to spend some time with you. I like association with you. You sannyasi, I'm grihastha. How is it possible, Maharaj?" He says, can I please sit next to you? Well, he sees good and bad in you, and some things he's not paying attention to, and he sees you through, and one glance of him is enough for you to make you happy. My Guru Maharaj was such a sensitive person, always. The moment I think about something, he knows. Bring this topic up. Use this ability in the Krishna service. Where would you find sensitive people nowadays? Mostly people are pretty rough. It's precious. Someone might say it's sentimental, but if you join it with Krishna consciousness, it would be sentimental and spiritual.
Спасибо, Гуру.
You, Guru Maharaj.
Читать из интернета.
I will read some questions from the internet. What is the priority for you? The participants
Сказали, что
or the internet?
медитация,
You said that
махамантра, она существует.
devotional service is more important than meditation. Mahamantra is a meditation. Yeah, that's right. But this is the meditation to get the devotional service. And this is not the... It does not address Krishna. It addresses Srimati Radharani. So we address Srimati Radharani in order to get the devotional, in order to be engaged in the devotional service to Lord Krishna. Hara, this is the object we address to. It should be not impersonal meditation, but personal meditation. Even impersonal meditation for Hare Krishna on a Hare Krishna mantra is good. If you have the right attitude and you continue to do whatever you can by the mercy of Krishna, you're gonna be fine.
Еще один вопрос из онлайна. Брат, что делать, если после служения в храме чувствуешь себя плохо? Идет через силу и желание, вылезают.
What should I do if I feel bad after service in the temple? It means you were not engaged in the service. It's just job, just working. Open the text where Krishna says Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam 9.26. Open that text and meditate on the text with commentary. It is giving you the description what is practical service in the temple. It's not hard. First, you need to learn the easy things. Love, a little bit of water, leaf. You offer it to Krishna with love. So devotional service is where your love is. If you're given big sum of money, you will not feel love immediately. But if you bring a flower, you get it from the flower bed or tree, or bring a little flower, or bring a little water. You're not being concentrated on your expenses, right? So you think of love, you think of relationship. Krishna has all the money, all the water, all the flowers, but He's given us this instruction Patram pushpam phalam toyam. A little bit of
Вот освойте,
water,
пожалуйста, принцип
flower, leaf,
духовного служения и
offer me
работы
with love.
в храме, не уставая.
If you understand that, you'll be never tired
Спасибо.
serving in a temple.
Дорогие преданные, есть еще из комнаты. Вот здесь вопросы, чтобы их чередовать.
Dear devotees, do you have any other questions?
Чем давайте.
Так, чем охладение, конечно, как всегда.
Yamahladini Mataji is always.
Вот у меня вопрос, очень часто на нем думаю, вот эта индивидуальность вы сегодня.
There's a question I think often of.
Да. Она же, это же вечная, как сказать, составляющая живого существа, что она чувствует себя индивидуальным, правильно? Как личность. То есть в реальном мире, получается,
In the material world,
он чувствует себя как центром, да?
one feels himself as a center, and in the spiritual world, what about our individuality in the spiritual world? How is it being manifested? It seems like we're also center
А,
in the spiritual world.
то есть ты подозреваешь духовный мир.
So you suspect the spiritual world to have some egoistic
Не уверена, что это
ideas.
на самом деле чисто.
You don't think it's 100% pure. Is it true or not? There could be some proper egoism. This Sunday, Vaisheshika Prabhu was giving a story about Krishna who was calling for his cows. And there was a story about one cow. He could not remember her name, and it would not join other cows and cows till he remembered its name. So in probably
Я понял, это все из-за Васушешти. Пусть теперь
Vasushestra Prabhu has to explain you this problem.
давай объясняй.
He needs to explain it because he brought these problems.
Так, ну это другая тема.
Okay, this is a different topic.
Как ачарьи объясняют, да,
Well, Acharya is explaining us
когда проявлено наше служение Кришне,
when our service is being manifested, Lord Krishna, when
мы
it's revealed,
чувствуем себя, что
we
у нас
feel
есть
ourselves.
очень конкретное служение Кришне.
We feel that we have some special service to Krishna, and without that service, Krishna might feel bad. So we have some power over Krishna.
То есть Кришна мой.
It's the Krishna mind conception.
Не на себе, как я понимаю, а именно на моем служении.
But it's not about concentration on myself, but on my service to Krishna. We cannot say that it's egocentric. It's more like devotional service centric.
Растворяемся в сознании. Не то эго,
And we are being merged into the consciousness. We're not think about
Да,
ourselves.
хороший комментарий.
Yeah, this is a good commentary.
Могу добавить
There's a philosophy
слов.
to it. Can add to it.
Забыл позвать эту корову,
Krishna, he forgot to call that cow
углубить
in order to
любовь
to
к этой
deepen
корове и
the love
любовь этой коровы.
for her and the love
Чем отличается
that
эта история, скажем, от материального
she felt.
эгоцентризма?
What is the difference of this story from materialistic
Вроде были друзьями, да?
situation?
И не пригласили
If someone is not invited for a
а
party,
потом можете извиняться всю жизнь, это проблема.
then all your lifetime you're gonna be
Она не
asking for forgiveness,
никакие проблемы не
and
исчезают.
you will never be forgiven.
Никакие ошибки.
Because in material world, no mistakes
Это закон кармы. А что касается духовного мира,
are
да,
little.
когда Кришна бросает гопи,
And
бросает
talking about spiritual world, even when Krishna leaves gopis,
раса, любовь такую.
he leaves Vrindavan, or
И именно для этого это и происходит. Именно поэтому
the
Кришна,
rasa
когда
dance,
Кришна углубляет эти
he leaves them in the middle of the rasa dance.
огромная разница.
He would in deepen the rasa, the relationship, deeper.
Спасибо, Гуру Махарадж. Матчем охладение, как вы удовлетворены? Спасибо.
Mataji, are you satisfied with that
Вопрос у
answer?
нас,
Yes, okay, thank you.
спрашивают, благоприятно ли преданным изучать смежные шастры, васту, джьотиш,
Is
аюрведу?
it
И если
good for the
благоприятно,
devotees
насколько
to
глубоко нужно
study
погружаться?
Это
shastras
благоприятно
as
для работы,
Jyotish,
для деятельности.
Vastu? Yes, it's good for your work,
Всё.
for your activity. Good. That's it.
А для сознания Кришны благоприятна
For the
Махамантра.
devotional service and for Krishna consciousness,
Харе Кришна Махамантра.
Hare Krishna Mahamantra
Для
is good.
работы это благоприятно. Вы имеете склонность
For your
к
job,
экономической деятельности, можете
if you have inclination to the Brahmanic activity
зарабатывать деньги, вы должны так.
and you're making money,
Какая-то
it's
профессия
good
вы должны-
to be engaged in that. You need to have some occupation, some profession.
Я хотела спросить, вы сейчас сказали, что в материальном мире остаются.
Mentioned that in material world the problems remain,
Я хотела спросить, как тогда развивать отношения с
that people are having
преданными,
hard
если
time to forgive someone.
какой-то произошел конфликт,
I wanted to ask,
и
how
вроде
do
как
we
пытаешься,
get out of the situation when there's a problem in relationship
не обращать
between
внимания,
devotees?
как-то обиду,
You try
понимаешь,
your
что
best
как урок,
not to
ещё
pay
что-то
attention
на
to
фоне,
some
но всё равно
offenses,
где-то остается вот это
but
осознание, что
it,
человек, например, как-то
the trace of it
плохо поступил или как-то
remains in your consciousness that
То есть чем
someone
тогда
mistreated you.
отличается день
What is the
преданного,
difference
день
of
обычных людей,
devotees'
от тех,
behavior
что,
and other people's,
те, кто едят мясо, им сложно очень простить.
meat eaters,
Вот. И я вот что-то
etc.?
этот момент не понимаю. Хотела уточнить. Спасибо большое.
Только Кришна может
Only Krishna
прощать грехи.
can
Он
forgive
единственный, кто не хранит,
all the faults.
не
He's
находится в этом.
the one who would never be in this state of mind.
И если мы преданы Кришне, мы
If
тоже
we are
можем это
Krishna's
качество как бы у
devotees,
него принимать.
we can
Через служение эти качества
mirror
остаются божественными.
this
Вопрос
ability
еще
of Krishna.
преданный, другой вопрос. Ты же преданный,
And it's more a question of your devotion.
преданный. Если ты преданный,
Depends on
выше этого.
who is the devotee you're talking about.
Речь идет о преданном, обиде какой-то преданный.
So we need to know who is the devotee you're talking about. He should be ecstatic.
Я обиделся на какого-то преданного, а Кришна также
If I'm offended by someone,
я. Только я. А Кришна как? А
then
Кришна
what
как?
about Krishna? Krishna was not offended.
Кришна ведет его дальше.
Krishna is leading him
Этого человека
the other way.
совершает ошибки.
He remains to lead him.
Ты тоже совершаешь ошибки.
I make
Ты можешь
mistake,
ошибаться,
and he
ошибаться.
makes
А
mistakes,
он и меня
and Krishna
защищает
is
тоже.
still protecting me and him
Иметь сознание Кришны,
continue
человек предан тогда.
to lead. So
Обижает
if I'm not forgiving him,
это хорошо для
then I'm more like a child.
на пути. Да, если поступает так, как негодяй, но он продолжает, мы еще верим в него. Это
We
сознание.
still believe in people,
Я не
even
говорю
though
о том, что ты должна
they
помнить,
act like
это
rascals.
чувство. Чувство иметь, когда вспомнишь
It doesn't mean
сложную ситуацию.
that you don't have that feeling in
Всегда
you.
вернется это чувство.
Every time you see him or the situation, you're gonna remember it.
Есть еще разум, нужно
But
добавить
still, you have
сознание.
intelligence. You need to add
Добавить
Krishna
сознание,
consciousness
чтобы
to
убрать
it.
всё это сформировать.
If you add Krishna
Помните,
consciousness,
разбитой памяти, да, тебе просто напоминать будет, как
this
ты плохо поступаешь.
memory,
Этого никогда делать
this
не
bad
будешь.
memory,
То,
will
как ты будешь
always remind you
себя
of
понимать, извлекать какую-то-
what would be the best
А иначе ты станешь
to
мстительным
act
человеком.
in a similar situation. What would be the best reaction? And you stay away from it. Otherwise, you won't be able to
Спасибо, прочитаю один вопрос еще из онлайна.
make any
По
difference.
поводу переезда в городок 30 тысяч спрашивают.
And
Городок
there's a
30
question
тысяч
about
из миллионника, это задача.
how
Как
to
адаптировались
move
10 лет
from
назад?
Не надо переезжать, и не к этому
huge city
совсем переезжать. Если вы
to
всем поедете, то
a
там
town
будет
of 30,000.
Миллион еще один.
If you're all gonna move
Взять
to
города и портить.
those little
Живите в испорченных
towns,
городах и проповедуйте сознание Кришны. Вот.
there are gonna be millions in those little
Мы в них не
towns.
живем, мы просто
well.
находимся в них.
So please don't go there.
Да какая там
Don't
жизнь?
move there.
Квартира,
We
магазин,
just
работа, квартира.
stay where you are and preach. Just
Люди
preach
находятся в
there.
жизни, но это не жизнь.
People think that this is their life,
Но мы
to live in
проповедуем,
those
вот,
places.
находится в городах.
but and
Если
they
не
think this is
проповедуете
good.
никак
But
изразную проповедь, проповедуете никак
for us, it's
изразную
not
проповедью, то
auspicious. But we stay there.
жить по-настоящему.
It's an austerity, but we stay there to preach.
Спасибо.
That's why.
Еще один вопрос из онлайна. Какая разница
If you're not preaching, then you live in the village or somewhere.
изучением книг Шрилы Прабхупады? С чего начать именно изучение книг Шрилы
How do we
Прабхупады?
start to study
Учение означает
Srila
система
Prabhupada's
образования.
books?
Читаете вы, конечно, что это
Study means there's a system,
всё прекрасно,
the
хорошо.
system of education.
Но когда
When you read it, it's
хотите
you just
образование,
read. But when you get your education, it comes to you in a certain system. There's a pattern, and it's more like organized reading. So you try to remember it and put it in a certain system in your head. This is the main thing of education. So you get the whole picture. Reading is also self-education. Self-education can enhance your process. But if your approach to it more scientifically, then you will be able to get more. So there is some difference. Our generation, we were just reading from the books. It was not systematized. But still we were preaching and fine. Nowadays, the Krishna conscious society is so much different, and so many devotees, they are not reading. That's why we're bringing these courses, educational courses, with these diplomas and everything, in order for it to help people. If everyone would read, spend 1 hour reading Prabhupada's books, it wouldn't be hard to pass those exams. But because nobody's reading enough, the education sake. If you get this systematized education and you still don't read Prabhupada's books, then it means you're wasting your time, because you're gonna forget everything. Pretty much everything. This is the meaning. You need to always talk to sadhu. In our movement, it's reading from Srila Prabhupada's books in order to understand the value of the book. Then we would be considered to be educated.
Аланкар Прабху, писали вопрос в чат, может быть, зададите голосом его, если можете. Не всех вижу, преданные. Я зачитаю.
Сейчас в настоящее время
I have such a realization meeting with young Matajis, and they need some assistance in order to meet their spouses, their partners. How do they communicate with opposite sex in order to make families? Nowadays, I'm making this marathon running about family values, and I think I meditate on this topic. How can I assist them in this, in the Krishna conscious way? So devotees are afraid to approach each other and meet each other, right?
Если
Yeah.
какой-то молодой
And if there's a young man
в брачном возрасте думает создать семью,
and he thinks
девушка
of
есть хорошая, она ему нравится, но он боится
making a family and he's afraid of approaching certain girl or the senior devotees who forbid him to approach that girl. What is that fear? It's not only about men, but women as well. They're afraid of
вызывают ужас
being mistreated,
молодым людям.
or the seniors.
Поэтому старшие должны в этом как бы тогда участвовать.
Yes, that way senior devotees
Связано с старшими
need to
детьми,
participate then.
болезненно, то нужно заметить это старшему и сказать, и поговорить об этом, и быть таким связующим звеном.
So you need
Если
to
видите, что
be
это
the
нормальные, как
that-
бы, люди уравновешенные,
the link in that
можете познакомить,
connection.
или
You
просто
can
сказать об этом.
attract their attention to each other.
Раз вы установили такие правила,
If there are
что
such
именно
rules
старших, тогда старшие должны участвовать.
that only seniors
Как они познакомятся?
can be the link, then you need to be engaged in it.
Тебе придется знакомить их как-то.
Then you would have to
Что тебя боятся и
make them
хотя
Get-
никакой уж
get
страшного
know
нет
each other.
у тебя, и-
I wouldn't say you're so scary,
Но раз такой порядок,
but
это
because
хороший порядок,
this is
значит,
the
это хороший.
regulation in yatra,
Старший
it's
помогает,
good because otherwise there would be chaos. Then yes, a system. And it happened that devotees, they meet each other through internet. And one would be in Krasnodar, another one would be in Ulyanovsk. How do I give them this appropriate education?
Ну, по интернету могут познакомиться,
The internet is fine for this meeting.
разговариваем,
Just
тоже
like
включить
right now we have the meeting,
связь, поговорить.
so they can
Опять же, старшие могут как-то это устроить.
connect each other. And those senior devotees, they can assist them.
Это несложно, мне кажется.
This is not very difficult question.
Получается, да, что чем старше девушка, планка выше, выше и выше, когда она доходит
It's the older the woman, the higher standard
Да.
she's trying to apply her search for a husband.
В Екатеринбурге на таком уровне все.
So this is your Yekaterinburg girls.
Тогда дело безнадежное, конечно.
Then you have a problem. The standard is too high, and men, they need to
Девушки-то
lift
нормальные,
them
вот мужчины
self up.
годятся.
Oh, okay, I see. So the girls are fine, but the men are no good.
Спасибо, Гуру. Кстати, как бы с этим
The
обращением
question is just to marry them all,
не так страшно.
to get them all married, and
Просто они сначала обращаются, а потом они
at first
проходят, и смотришь, они
they're asking you to find someone.
Похоже, они сами себя
And
не устроят без нас.
Then seems like they're not listening. So they're making their own life. They don't need any seniors then.
Тут от преданных в чате сообщение, что ну, вроде непонятно, никаких, у нас вроде старшие не ставят никаких барьеров, что, скорее всего, это в среде самих молодых преданных нагнетается такой этикет, что, мол, какие-то старшие преданные что-то там запрещают. Сразу пишут.
The devotees are saying
Раньше старшие давали, как бы соединяли преданных там.
that it's more a question of youngsters. They think that there should be some guidance from the seniors.
Если что-то обращается все делать. Чан Чан, да? Делается вовремя.
Да, наше время с тобой уже прошло.
Our time, for me and you, the time has passed already. Well, I think it's just starting.
Зрелости достигает к 70 годам. Да? Ну хорошо, есть какое-то время еще, можем еще вопросы задавать.
Guru Maharaj, do we still have some time? How many questions do we have?
Здесь, в комнате Zoom и в онлайне сколько-то штук? 5, может, есть.
Давай поднятую руку. Томи.
Okay, let's do one more question
Игорь, включайтесь.
in Zoom.
Харе Кришна, Chaitanya Chandra Charan prabhu. Примите мои поклоны.
Hare Krishna.
У меня такой вопрос. Душа является Бога.
The soul is a particle of God.
Можно ли сказать, что душа это экспансия?
Can you say that it's an expansion of Krishna?
Да,
Yes, yes.
да, да.
Там, экспансия отличается от Господа, так? Кришна.
There are some expansions that were not different from Krishna. Like Krishna's wives in Dwarak. They saw no difference. And his personal expansion is just like Balaram. It's different, right? It's different Vamshas.
Душа, она же ведь не
And what about soul?
категория
It's not falling into this category of Vishnu Tattva. It's Jiva Tattva, right?
сказать, что
And still you can say that it's an
Другая
expansion.
категория экспансии.
It's a different kind of expansion.
Да?
Я поправлю, не такой был вопрос.
А?
Было там, что Господь его личные спутники
I wanted to say that
и,
there's a Lord and his personal
и те,
followers.
которые преданы здесь на земле от отношения, те, которые экспансии, и вот эти дживы, в смысле, вот эти преданные, вот отношения между ними. Вот
What
такое
about the
было.
relationship here on earth between the Lord and his followers,
Да как? Можно
his
назвать живую экспансию?
associates?
Бхагавата?
Can you call Jiva an expansion?
Вместе мы решили, что это
Here we thought that
дживы, а Господь со своими экспансиями, это как экспансия, ой, в смысле, со своими спутниками, это его энергия.
the Lord
Экспансия
with his associates is energy. What is expansion
самого слова, да?
about this world?
Расширение.
It,
Это
yeah,
расширение.
it's coming from
Спамша,
to expand.
амша — это часть.
Spamsha, amsha means part,
Да, а сва
and
означает
swa
неотличное от него.
means no
Например,
different
теперь я протянул руку,
from
взял
himself.
предмет.
For example, I stretch my hand in order to
Рука
get
от меня не отделилась.
the object. This is sva.
Это я
My
сам,
arm
да,
was not
протянул просто свою
separated from me.
экспансию в сторону, да, вытянул руку, так сказать. Взял
So it's my expansion.
при помощи вот свамши, самого себя. Это свамши.
This is
Это
Swamsha.
Господь Баларама, допустим, Вишну
And
Таттва,
there could be Vishnu
это
Tattva,
Господь
Lord
Господь
Balaram.
распространяет сам себя.
He's expanding himself.
А Випхинамша,
But Viphinamsha, Bhina, Prakriti,
отделенная энергия, она может
separated energy. It could be
Такая самотерпение.
Что такое?
Экспансия или это
Ну, нет, это все экспансия. Потому что если Кришна изначально
who
Господь,
is Srimati Radharani.
экспансия.
Oh, these are all expansions. If Krishna
Такое
is
расширение.
the one,
Экспансия — это
the
любые вот
beginning,
эти перечисленные.
expansion means he's all kinds of energies,
Безграничная.
unlimited energies, unlimited expansions.
Шримати Радхарани — это его
Шримати Рани,
энергия, которая
Srimati
называется
Rani, his internal energy, that pleases him personally. His first expansion is Balaram, not Srimati Radharani.
Вот мне ничего не понятно, допустим. Вам все понятно, ну хорошо.
You understand everything.
Чем больше ты объясняешь, тем
I don't really understand. The more I explain it, the more is not
там дома в духовном мире.
is not clear for me. So some of the things you can see clear only in at home in your spiritual world.
Сильно об этом не беспокойтесь. Что-то непонятно.
Don't
естественно, трудно понять.
Worry if something is not clear or not easy to understand.
Спасибо, Гуру Махарадж.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Thank you, dear devotees. Let's end this class.
Спасибо.
Thank you so much,
Читали про описание
everyone.
осени,
So we've read about the description of fall
вот этих
of.
прекрасных, ощущений. Желаю
I wish you all these pleasant
счастья.
spiritual realizations and happiness and Krishna consciousness. Take care of each other. Shri Prabhupada ki